Hello everyone, this is Grace. It is December the 1st, 2021, and we need to take another look at these patterns of sevens in the Revelation. The reason why is because this topic actually came about so that I could point out to you that the vials were not universal, that they weren't poured out upon everyone. And I didn't point that out when I did the first two videos. And also, there's a second reason why it was needed. It's needed because when I did the fifth vial, I realized that a proper understanding of these was needed in order to proceed. Now, the fifth vial actually is not as simple as it presents itself to be. Actually, this study, the next one that I do, not including the ones that I do on nature in the Bible. The next one that I do are both needed in order to understand the fifth vial. And there's also another in-depth study which I have to do, which I haven't decided yet if I'm just going to skip that part and explain it to you and then go back to it, or if I'm just going to go ahead and complete it. It's one of those studies where, if you're subscribed, you'll recognize that every once in a while we'll have to get our topic. We'll have to go somewhere, get an in-depth understanding of that and once we have an understanding of that topic, we can come back and finish the study that we were currently on. So that's what's needed in order to understand the fifth vial. And right now I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but the next two studies, those will be needed in order. This one and one more will be needed in order to understand the fifth vial when I do get that presented. So first off, I wanted to point out to you what I mentioned before about how these vials are not universal. So you have the first four churches, and if you look at the churches, even if we used all three interpretations, we used that this was the original church of the past, that it's a church in the future, and that it's the last day. Well, it's not in the future anymore, but that it's last day, a last day church. All of the interpretations, we apply all of them. And but if you say this was even if this was the entire first church, it even breaks it down into categories. It says those who have the works. It talks about their works. It talks about those who overcome and those who don't overcome and those who are falling. It still groups them. It's not universal. And the same thing when you go to the seals. You have the seals. The first one, it covers more. I would say that in all of the groups, the first one covers more than most. And the same thing here, and then in the same thing with the trumpets. It probably covers more, the vials. It probably covers a larger group than most, because this would be the original offering. The first seal, the white horse, that's the original offering. But then as you go through, everyone can't be killed here, and then everyone can't be saved, and then everyone can't die here. There wouldn't be any saints left. They still go in order. The first one has to be open, and then the second one, and then the third, just as with the churches. They go in order, but they're not universal, and you can tell that by looking at them. You can tell that they're not. Same thing with the churches. We know that the churches aren't universal because those are different groups of people. It tells you in the study that these are different groups of people. And so when we get to the vials, there's no need to change it. This one happens first. It's not universal. They're probably going to include many people, especially with this, because this is a plague here. So this is going to include a large number of people, but it's not everyone. It's just not. Then you have the second angel who pours his vial upon the sea. You have if this was universal and this was universal, pretty much everyone would die. There would be no water. We need water to live. So you just can't have this as universal. And you don't get to pick and choose and say, oh, well, everyone, I mean, whatever you want to pick and choose. You don't. It's either universal or it's not, and it's not. And it's not even going to be remotely universal, I don't think. I think that there are going to be groups of people that are suffering just like now. These are being poured out. Sister White tells us that these are being poured out in droplets now. It's just not as severe as it's going to be in the last days. It's going to be much more often and much more widespread. But it's not going to kill everyone. So that's the point that I wanted to make out, and that was my whole reason for bringing them up. However, when I got to the fifth vial, I realized that this was actually a needed study, and it's needed in order to get through the fifth vial, because we need a proper understanding of the way the events take place. I never nailed it down. If you watched the first video, I never nailed down the timeline for these events and how they happened. Well, that's needed in order. The fifth vial is not I think I may have said it before, I can't remember. It's not as easy as it presents itself to be. It just isn't. I thought I was just going to be able to shoot through this, and oh no. No siree. There's no way. So anyway, you have your first 4 churches, and then you have your 5th, which is the present. That's when everything was going down. If you go back and look, the presentation ceremony where you see the sacrificed lamb and the opening of the book, Jesus beginning to take control beginning to be presented with control over the 144,000. So all of this is happening in the present time, which was the 5th seal, which was the 5th church. The 5th church. And then, of course, you went, not the 5th church. It was I'm thinking Revelation chapter 5. I'm sorry. Hold on a second. Hold on. Okay. I checked. Oh, I'll show you. Hold on. It was the 5th seal. I don't know why that slipped my mind, but it's the 5th seal. Okay, so you have the first 4, which are already in the past. And then the ceremony is taking place during the 5th seal. Well, it talks about how they are presented with right robes because they're currently going under the judgment. Of course, we don't know any of this, but it still speaks of the events as though they're current with the previous chapter. So this is what's going on at the time. And then, of course, the 6th and the 7th, they're intertwined with one another, and they run concurrently throughout the rest of the Bible. Then you have the seals. Oh, well, we already kind of did the seals because we looked at the 5th seal, which is running concurrently, where you look back and you see the first 4 have already happened. And then, of course, the 6th and the 7th have already been opened, have already been created, and they're running concurrently along with the 5th. So then you have the trumpets. You have the first 4 trumpets. We look back. We don't know the 5th is happening, but it's still happening. It's still going on at the same time as the 6th and the 7th seal. However, this is going to lead directly into the 6th. So we will be tied to the 5th. We'll be able to look back if we know the signs and recognize them and see what has happened and realize, oh, this is written in the Bible. We just won't recognize it at the time. So then your 6th and your 7th will be open, and those will continue to run. So we need to know this, because when we get to the 5th vial, if we are looking back, if we actually follow this timeline back where these first droplets of the first 4 vials are being poured out, and it takes us back to the time of the 6th and the 7th trumpet, then this is going to sweep us all the way back to Revelation 13. That's the logical flow for this chapter. It's going to take us all the way back to the time of the seventh trumpet. And this is what happens during the time of the seventh trumpet. Now, of course, there's elements of the sixth there. The plagues have been poured out. The 144,000 is carried over from the sixth trumpet. There's a lot of stuff that's carried over and that's running concurrently, as we just discussed. But I wanted you to understand this, and then hopefully when we go into the fifth vial, it'll be a little bit easier to explain. It'll be a little bit easier to explain and to understand what I'm saying. That's not something that's I think is going to be difficult to explain, but I had to explain the first four vials anyway, so I went ahead and put that in there as well. Okay, and then, so yeah, I'll leave this at that, what I just said, and then of course we'll have the next study as well, which is going to be needed for the fifth vial. And yeah, I guess I'll see you in the next video.